The content you're about to enjoy comes from the archives of The Best You. We're devoted to the very best in personal development. With a magazine and resources dedicated to inspiring and changing people's lives, at The Best You, we work with the world's leading writers and trainers on the evolution of the self, and people whose journeys have been affected by their work and words. For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.
So, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for my better half, Brian Rose.
Baby. Give it up for Mariana, my wife. Woo! How we doing, Best You EXPO? Make some noise, yes? Come on! So 10 years ago, I walked up on the sidewalk, and there was this woman on her mobile phone, and I asked her out. Now, little did I know it was her birthday, and she said yes. Yes? So that's my tip for any guys or girls out there. Always ask someone out for the first time on their birthday, and you're going to have something like that. So thank you very much, Mariana, for putting up with me. And so I'm super excited to be here today. I love the energy in this entire place. I love this room. And I want to talk about something that I'm absolutely obsessed with. And that is something I call transformation. I love talking to people that go through transformation. I've been documenting my own transformation, and I love making people actually transform. I'm literally obsessed with this. And you can see this guy here just went from a very dark cocoon, and now he's got these beautiful wings and he's flying around. And I really think that if you're here today, you probably want to transform as well. Who here wants to transform into something different? Come on. It could be a new version of yourself. It could be healthier, fitter. Maybe it's a new business. Maybe it's impact on the world. But that's what I want to talk about today, transformation. I want to share with you my story, and I want to teach you something I've never shown before to an audience this size, which is my 9-step transformation system. You can use this today. And I've reverse engineered this based on my own life and of my 3,000 students that I've been teaching for the past 4 years. This stuff works. If you've ever accomplished something great in your life, you've done this. And if you haven't, it's because you missed one of these steps, and that's what I want to talk about today. But first, you're probably dying with one question, and that is, who the hell are you, right? And so I ask myself this all the time, who am I? And the truth is that I've been a lot of things in my life. I was a child, I went to university, I'm currently right here with you, but I want to keep transforming. I want to be new versions of myself every single year. And so my question is, who the hell are you right now? Is that who you want to be? Or do you want to be some newer, transformed version of yourself? And that's what I want to talk about today. But currently, a lot of you might know me as this guy, the founder and host of London Real. Who here has watched London Real? Yes? All right, all right. What are some of the guests that you love on London Real? Shout their names out. Yes?
Wim Hof.
What? Wim Hof?
Yes.
The Iceman. Stand up, young man. Do you get in cold water?
Oh, yeah, I can line this up for 14 minutes. That's my
14 minutes. Okay, I got 10 minutes on you. That's pretty good. Wim Hof. All right, the Iceman. Give it up for this gentleman. He's transforming. Who else? Yeah. Cardone. Grant Cardone. Who likes Grant Cardone? And Elena Cardone. Right? Don't forget, 10X. I want to talk about them later. Who else? Gabor Mate. Yes. Yeah, good. What does Gabor teach you? What do you like about him?
Well,
everything, right?
especially that addiction.
Yeah, addiction and childhood trauma. Yeah, so Gabor Mate was in my recent movie called Iron Minds. He's been on the show twice, and he talks about addictions and how childhood trauma leads to those addictions. And he's become a great friend and an incredible guest. Who else? Let me get a couple more. Rich Roll, fantastic. Rich Roll is an Ultraman. He's done these ultra Ironman triathlons. He's become a good friend. He was in the movie Iron Mind as well. Also struggled with his own addictions and really got through a really bad bout with alcoholism. And we went through that with the movie as well. Any other names? Just so Vision from Mind Valley. Yes, incredible. Who else? Dan Pena, the $50 billion man. Yell if you love Dan Pena and yell if you hate Dan Pena. Okay, so Dan Pena is one of my mentors, the $50 billion man. I love him and hate him equally. At the same time, he pushes buttons, he yells a lot. And so that's what we do here at London Real. For the last 8 years, I've been broadcasting from our studios in Shoreditch, and we put out high definition, 6-camera, long-form interviews for the whole world to see. I've spoken with over 500 of the greatest minds on the planet, and I love doing what I do. And we just ran the numbers, and 250 million people from around the world have watched London Real content and been transformed by it. And I'm super humbled that we can do this, and we put all of this out there for free. Because my mission is to create a mass-scale transformation of humanity into a fully empowered, cooperative, and collaborative species. And if I can't do that, then what am I doing up here? And so that's what we try to do at London Real every single day. Put out these messages to you so you can be inspired by Wim Hof and Dan Pena and the Cardones and Gabor Mate. And that's what I really want to do. I want to talk about transformation today because each one of the people that you see up here transformed, Ido Portal, Jocko Willink, Cardone is there, everyone, they're all transformed. And I want to try to get you to start making your transformation today. It's hard, and I know it's hard, but I want to show you a system that you can use so you can get there. And so this is a typical day in the office for me. And so this is me hanging out, and this is our studio here. I like to say this is the American version of what London looks like, right? Yeah, it's a little over the top here. We got the flags. I got the bulldog Winston that's hanging out there, and I got some pretty good sock game. Are you guys feeling my sock game? Yeah, it's strong, right? How about my sock game today? You feeling my sock game today? Yeah, Mariana got these for me. So that's what we do. We get this studio set up, and I sit down and have these conversations. Who's the guy I'm talking to? Does anybody know him? Grant Cardone, right? Mr. 10X himself. And I had an amazing conversation with Grant, but to be honest, I didn't like Grant when I first heard about him. I was like, who the hell is this guy? He's sitting on top of his jet. He's throwing money everywhere. He's walking around in Rolls Royces. I was like, I don't know if I like this guy, but I got him in the chair, and 12 minutes later, he's talking about how he lost his father, how he lost his brother, how he's strung out on drugs at 21 years old. So his mother says, get out of my sight. I never want to see you again. This man transformed. That's the essence of what we do here at London Real. You know it. We go deep. I go into Gabor Mate and find out what was wrong with him. I go talk to the Wim Hof, the Iceman, and find out how his wife committed suicide, right? That's how he got the power to transform. And one of my favorite hip-hop artists is Ice-T. Does anybody know Ice-T? I'm a little old school, Ice-T. And he has a great expression. He says, it's not about the come up, it's about the come back. And that's what we do at London Real. I don't care about your wins. That's easy. I care about you going to the very dark depths and coming out and transforming into something incredible. And that's why I like Grant Cardone. And that's why I like Elena Cardone, because they've been there and they've come back and they're out there transforming people. And so I had Grant on the show and I had Elena on the show. Who likes Elena Cardone here, yeah? She has a great book called Build an Empire. And I read the whole thing and I was like, Elena, I read your whole book. And she's like, really? Grant hasn't. And Grant was right there. I was like, Grant? He's like, nope, I haven't read her book. And so they're a funny couple, and I hung out with them. And while I was talking to Elena, Grant changed my Instagram name because he was so bored, and he changed it from London Real TV to The Real Brian Rose. And he was like, Brian, I just changed your Instagram name. I was like, okay, Grant, that's fine with me. And so that was my experience with the Cardones. It was incredible. But this is what we do. We try to put out these messages and get you to inspire and transform. We also have been busy with some other projects. About 4 years ago, I started the London Real Academy. And this is where I actually teach people and personally mentor people to start businesses, learn how to start podcasts, learn how to publicly speak, or learn how to transform their lives. And we've graduated over 3,000 people from 87 countries from around the world. And this is because my videos weren't enough. I mean, I can't just show you Wim Hof and expect you to transform yourself. This is an 8-week process where I literally lay hands on you and get you across the goal line. And I use the 9 steps I'm going to share with you tonight to graduate these people. I love teaching almost as much as I love broadcasting. And this is just a picture of us at the world headquarters here in London. We moved here a year ago, and this is one of our graduation ceremonies. We do these every quarter. People fly in from all over the world, Asia and South America and Africa, and they come here and we do master classes and we really bond together as transformation experiences. And this is just a picture from our last graduation. We took over Bu Saba here in London, and these people here, They've just transformed their lives over 8 weeks. And mark my words, look at these faces. One of these people is a future billionaire. It's a future TED speaker. It's a future New York Times bestselling author, because now they know this transformation system and they're going to start running it in all sorts of loops in their life. These are my business accelerator graduates, but once they know it, they can accelerate their body. You know what I'm talking about. You're in that picture, aren't you? That's you. And so these people will learn how to do other things, personal lives, impact on the world, but now they have that system. But the reason I'm showing you all of this is because this is in itself a transformation. Because 8 years ago, London Real Studios looked a little more like this. That was it. That's my flat in Shoreditch. These are microphone arms with pop shields here. I don't know why, because I'm not a pop singer. I've got the mixing board there. I would record video on 2 iMacs, and I've got a keyboard there. And it's not because I'm Elton John. It's because that's how I digitized the sound. This is where London Real came from. This was a dream to help people transform. And this is about this process of transformation. And that's really what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about this entire journey. And so to get started, I want to talk about this word, inspirational. A lot of people come up and say, Brian, Rose, London Real is so inspirational. Grant Cardone's inspirational. Wim Hof is inspirational. I have a love-hate relationship with this word. Actually, that's a lie. I hate this word. I hate inspiration. What is inspiration? It's, for me, some type of thing you see and you get a 20-second dopamine hit and you're like, yeah, let's go do it. And then you go back to your mediocre life where you're not taking risks. You're not pulling the trigger. You're not doing new things. I hate inspiration. I hate Instagram feeds with memes and hustle porn because it doesn't help get you to the next level. And I'm not going to waste your time here tonight with inspiration. I like a different word that you're going to hear a bit more from me, and that's transformational. That's what I want to show you here tonight. A system that you can use to be the next version of yourself, to be the person you want to be. And it doesn't happen with inspiration. Inspiration doesn't get you there. And so I want to talk about a system that we can actually go through. But before we do that, I'd love to go back a little bit through memory lane and talk about some of my transformations. And we can learn lessons from each piece. And then I want to show you this system. How does that sound? Yes? Okay. This is me. And this is probably 1978. I'm here in San Diego, California. I got a big smile on my face. And I must have the most cruel mother in the world, because who would write their child's name on their shirt, right? This is a surefire way of getting beat up in the playgrounds. But here I was looking at my life thinking, what's going to happen next? This kid had no idea of the transformation that was about to happen to him. He had no idea he would be living in London. He had no idea that people around the world would have watched his broadcasts and his transformations. But I was ready to transform. And so when I look back, I think, what was my first real transformation? And it was probably this day. And here is me graduating with my degree in engineering from MIT. This happened in 1993. And if you can see, I've got these dark circles under my eyes. It's because I was drinking all night with my fraternity brothers. I'd actually been drinking for about 4 years with my fraternity brothers, but I accomplished this. And I remember it was a beautiful summer day in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which is right next to Boston. My grandma and grandpa came from Arizona. My mom and dad were there. And I did it. I finally graduated in 4 years from an institution that's one of the greatest in the world. And I actually had managed to get straight A's my first semester, and I was by far not the smartest person there. But I found a system to kind of get me to this level as a transformation. And so what did I do from there? Did I get a job in engineering? No. I decided I wanted to keep transforming. So I went to Wall Street and I became a banker. And I still remember that first day on Wall Street. I took the NR subway line from the East Village down to the Old World Trade Center, the one that's not there anymore. And I walked outside the building. I remember looking up at the building thinking, wow, I must look like a tourist right now. But it was just so beautiful being there. I was 22 years old. I walked across the street to One Liberty Plaza. I took the elevator to the 33rd floor. On one side was the Statue of Liberty. On one side was the World Trade Center in all its glory. They gave me a phone and said, this one goes to the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. This one goes to the bond pit. Go. And I was like, okay, let's go. And so I became a banker, and I moved to London in 2002, and I worked for a company called ICAP PLC here in the city for 9 years. I was a credit derivatives broker. Some of my clients were JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and some of the other banks that you hear about in the news being prosecuted for fraud and criminal activities. And so those were some of my clients. And I remember I got really good at being able to talk to 2 people at the same time on the phone. I could actually have a conversation with one banker and another banker, and we had these phones with these clickers on there so I could mute out out the conversations. And so I found that I got really good. I could actually lie to two people at the same time when I clicked out the clickers. And actually, if I got really good, I could lie to my colleagues as well. And so I was in this really kind of dark loop of being a banker and trying to get as much as possible for me. I was making millions and millions of dollars a year, and yet I was really unhappy. And I lived in a 2-story, massive apartment in Shoreditch with a big screen TV and the king-size bed and no other furniture. Baby, you remember that place, right? And I was depressed, and I was slowly drinking myself to death because it was all about me. And I thought that's what I was supposed to do. That's what I was taught. It was the American dream, but it was time to do something else. So it was time for yet another transformation. And that's when I became a broadcaster.
For complimentary resources from my book, my complimentary e-course, The Power of the Question, or recommended reads, go to www.thequestion.com/resources. For more information on my coaching or mentoring, go to www.bernardo-moya.com.
I walked out of that. I knew nothing about broadcasting. I didn't know what mics were, what cameras were. I'm naturally an introvert. I would rather be at home right now, to be honest. So this isn't natural for me. Getting on camera is not natural for me. This is all really hard. It's really hard. I have to fight resistance every day. But I knew it was the path. I was going somewhere. I was connecting with people. I was becoming a better person. I was meeting amazing people like my wife. And everything was changing. And so I started going into this thing of being a broadcaster, learning along the way, and I'm still learning how to do that. And I kept up with the transformations. The next one was probably the biggest one I ever could do, which was becoming a dad. And this was probably the hardest one because I was like Rambo without the guns and the muscles, right? I was going to be solo. Anybody here was a solo bachelor for their whole life and was never going to have kids? Nobody out there? I was that guy. Thank you very much. One of you. I told my dad one time, he said, Brian, why don't you get a dog? And I said, Dad, that's too much commitment. So I was that guy. And so 2 years ago, at the age of 45, I became a father for the first time. These are my boys, Caden and Damon. They're 1 and 2 years old. They are full of beans. And this transformation has been one of the biggest ones. I also have a stepdaughter as well who's 14, and they've really, really changed my life. But again, I was going into the fear, going into the unknown, but I was trusting this whole system that I had put into place about this transformation experience. And so that's why I went ahead and did that, Dad, and it's been one of the greatest things. And a couple other ways that I've managed to transform over the years. This is me in Costa Rica last July, drinking the plant medicine ayahuasca. Has anybody heard of this medicine? Do we know it? Come on, make some noise for you psychedelic fans. And so this is me about to go on a massive transformative journey. And this is the subject of our latest documentary film called Dissolution Beyond the Ego. We're trying to find out, why are we all about our egos? Why are we fighting with each other? Why is one country fighting against the other country? Why are we abusing our environment? That's what we're exploring in this next movie. And this is me about to transform myself again and find out, what am I doing wrong? What are the patterns that I'm running in my head that just aren't working for me? And this is just another way that I'm always trying to become another version of myself. And so the last transformation I want to talk about is something that happened last year when I became an Ironman. And thank you very much. And so the guests that come into London Real Studios changed my life, right? Wim Hof changed my life. Gabor Mate changed my life. Cardone's changed my life. Dan Pena changed my life. And about a year ago, a guy named John Joseph came into my studio. And he is the lead singer of the hardcore punk band, the Cro-Mags. He was a Hare Krishna monk before. He was a vegan of 30 years. And he also was a really impressive crackhead for about 3 years as well in New York City. But he came to me 12 years sober. And on the episode, I got to know him, and he said, Brian, you got to come to New York City and you're going to do an Ironman. You got 90 days. You're going to do it on a 100% plant-based diet. I was like, John, I'm 46 years old. I was like, I've never done endurance swimming or running or anything. And he's like, yep, you're going to do it. And so I took his challenge. We also went really deep into some of my demons from the past and some of my addictions from New York. And on May 20th in Chattanooga, Tennessee last year, I crossed the finish line of the Ironman. And thank you. It just taught me so much about transformation and the stories we tell ourselves. And I met so many people that say, oh, I couldn't do that. I can't swim. And I'm just like, of course you can swim. You just need to have the trainer. You need to have the process. We all run these loops in our head and say, I can't do that. I can't do that. You can do that. There's nothing special about me, but I just engineered the process into where it actually happened. And so that's what I really want to talk about today. I want to talk about this concept of transformation because I believe we all must transform ourselves. I believe that's the price of admission on this earth. You all have these wonderful bodies, right? You can freeze your bodies. You can have food. You can listen to inspirational people. You can love. You can move your body like Ido Portal says. Well, guess what? There's a price for that. I believe it's your duty to transform every single day to become a better version of yourself for your friends, for your family, for community, for the whole world. And so that's what I'm here today to show you and teach you a way to transform. But I believe we all really must do that. And so a lot of people say, well, if that's true, Brian, then why is it so hard? Right? We all know what we want. I always tell my students, if we acted on the information available, we'd all be billionaires with six packs, right? We know what to do. So why is it so hard? Well, the truth is our minds are wired to keep us safe. Right? We used to be monkeys in the jungle. We went out to the savannah. We were in hunter-gatherer tribes, and there was a lot of things to be scared of. Where's the food? Where's the water? There's a dangerous animal. I've got to protect my kids. Not to mention the rest of the tribe. If I fall out of favor with them, I don't have any protection. I don't have any food. I can't procreate. We're scared of everything. It's built in naturally. But these days, 99% of that fear means nothing. It does not have the ramifications that we believe it does. So we have to constantly trick our brains into taking risk and taking action. How many people here believe that we're all at a war with our own brains? I believe that's what we do every single day. That's it. You wake up and who's going to be boss? Is it going to be you or is it going to be your brain? Because your lizard brain is scared of everything. All it sees is scare, right? Best You EXPO. This is a little scary, I'm sure, for some people here, right? Being up here is scary. So the lizard brain says, no, Brian, let's go to watch some Netflix. Yeah, let's get something to eat. It's so much safer, even though you know great things can happen. And so we have to fight that battle with our monkey brains because our lizard brain wants to protect us, but our frontal cortex knows in order to live a life of meaning, we must take risks, period. Look at all the people you admire. Look at the championship fighters, Muhammad Ali, Conor McGregor. Look at the musicians, Kanye West. Look at the figures in history, Gandhi, Theodore Roosevelt, all these people. What did they do? They took risks. They take risks every single day. Last time I checked, Conor McGregor lost his last 2 fights, right? But we admire him, right? So what's wrong with us? We need to really start engineering this concept of taking risks in our life. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about this concept of pulling the trigger. And this is something I borrowed from the $50 billion man, Dan Pena. He's always saying, pull the trigger. And I asked myself, what does that mean, pull the trigger? And I think all of you are walking around with a loaded gun, basically in your pocket. And inside that gun is a bullet full of all of your potential, all of the possibilities you could do. And what do? You walk around all day and you just don't do anything with it. And it's literally one small motion, and you could unleash all of your power down the barrel of this gun and go do some real damage or good in the world. And all you have to do is just squeeze that trigger and do it. But we're so scared. And so today I want to show you a system of how we can all pull this trigger. And it's something I developed looking at my life and with my 3,000 students over the last 4 years. And please pay attention. I'm going to go fast. But each one of these steps could make a difference between you being a totally different version of you or just being the same person you are today. And this is what I call my transformation system. And this is a 9-step system for you to be able to transform on any level. And you can run this system in 24 hours, or you can take 2 years or 10 years. This can be used for your health, your wealth, your love, your relationships, your impact on the world. This is what you can use. And I would argue some of you have already done this once before. How many people have ever done something here you're very proud of? Come on, throw your hands up. Even when you're a kid, you might have kicked the goal. You might have gotten the spelling bee. You might have asked your Valentine Day out. When you did that, you followed this process, but you didn't know you were doing it. We've all done this before. You've had these 9 pieces in place, and you've accomplished this. But as we get older, we get cynical, we get less risky, and we get tired, and we don't know how to run this again. And so you've all tried to run the system in the past, and one of these levels have failed. And let me go through the steps. The first is idea inception. Second one is visualize your future. Number 3, find the mentor. Very important. Number 4, pay price to action. Very important. Number 5, create your game plan. Number 6, take action. Number 7, be held accountable. This is where a lot of people mess up. Number 8, fight the resistance. And 9, of course, accomplish your goal. And I've broken this down into 3 sections. The first I call find your calling. We all have a calling, don't we? I didn't know what my calling was. Broadcasting is definitely my calling, and teaching. What's the next part? Be the hero. That's when you're actually taking the action. And finally, I call it slaying the dragon. We all want to cut the head off that dragon, right? We all want to get to where we want to go. And that's what this process is all about. So I want to walk you through these 9 steps, and I want to show you how each one can work and how you can apply it to your life. This can work in so many different situations, and I want to talk to you about some of those. So let's talk about the first step, which is called idea inception. This is so important because in the very beginning of our first documentary film with a man called Dorian Yates, who here know Dorian Yates is? He's Mr. Olympia, 6-time Mr. Olympia, one of the most popular guests on London Real. And in the beginning of our movie with Dorian, called Inside the Shadow, he says everything begins with a thought and then comes the action. And here was a young man in Birmingham living in a council flat with no parents, no future, no money, but he had a dream. I'll be the greatest bodybuilder in the world. And that's what he did. He started pumping iron. And from 1992 to 1997, he was Mr. Olympia. And it changed his whole world. It changed his whole outcome. It all started with an idea. And that's what happened to me. When I was 12 years old, someone said MIT. I said, what's MIT? When I was at MIT, someone said, watch this movie called Wall Street. I said, what's Wall Street? All of these things were ideas that was flooding in my head, and they changed the course of my future. Same with Wim Hof, same with Dan Pena, same with Gabor Mate. They constantly give me good ideas so I can act on. Now, how do you get good ideas in your head? Well, look back in the day before digital media. What did people used to do? What's the tale in the Bible? The prodigal son. What did he do? He left home, right? He went out to find those new ideas. What else did people used to do? Used to travel. They used to go to institutions. They used to have an apprenticeship. Get out of home is what they're trying to do, right? And that's the way they used to get ideas. But now we have digital media. It gets a little crazy out there. Does anybody here watch the news? Yes? Anybody here read the newspaper? I guess I'm with the right crowd. That is not the kind of thing that's going to get you a good idea inception, right? Most of digital media is garbage. Most of your Instagram feed is garbage. It's not going to help you with an idea inception. I'd even say most shows on Netflix aren't going to get you the idea that's going to transform you. It's just not. Most of these things are gossip. They're pure entertainment. They're trying to shock you and scare you about things in the world that you can't control. That's not what I'm talking about. You need to flood yourself with all sorts of really interesting ideas that can change your game. So where do you find those? Well, I think one of the best way is long-form conversations and long-form media. Of course, I would say that, because I do London Real. But it's true. I mean, you mentioned Wim Hof and Dan Pena and Gabor Mate. You spoke with him, or you listened to him for 2 hours. You got to understand what he was like, what his ideas are, what about trauma, what about addiction. And you have that idea. Maybe I have trauma. Maybe I can solve it. Maybe I can dunk myself in freezing water for 14 minutes, right? Maybe I can be like the Cardones and 10x my life. That's good idea inception. So you need to constantly flood your brain with great quantity of idea inception. It could be an event like this. It could be books, documentary films. It could be London Real, Joe Rogan, Tim Ferriss, whatever. But get those ideas in your brain because something's going to hook. And when it hooks, we go to the second step. And that is visualize your future. This is so important. You have to see yourself becoming this person. You have to see yourself going 20 minutes in the ice bath, beating Wim Hof's records, right? That's what you got to see yourself doing. So visualize your future. When I saw the movie Wall Street, I was like, wow, I could be like Gordon Gekko. I could go to New York City, make a lot of money. I could crush my enemies. This is going to be awesome. And so I was always visualizing my future. When I was a banker, someone said, have you heard of the Joe Rogan podcast? I was like, what's that? I saw Joe and I was like, wow, I could be like Joe. I could hang out with all these cool people that come over to my house. We'll have conversations. When I was preparing for John Joseph, it said, oh, he's an Iron Man. I was like, what's an Iron Man? And I saw myself crossing the finish line. And I was like, wow, that's what I'm talking about. So visualize your future in 3D Technicolor right now. Does anybody have an idea right now they want to act on, something in their brain? Yes? Visualize your future. You're like the Hollywood star in that. You're crushing it. You really have to put that in your head. If you can't visualize your future, move on to a new idea because you don't really want to be there. And again, go big. Put the Hollywood version of you in that part for the idea inception.
For more information on collaborating, partnering, sponsoring, supporting, or speaking at any of our events, or finding out more about our legacy clubs, go to www.thebestyou.co. If you're interested in finding out more about the amazing content we have, please go to www.thebestyou.online and get your 14-day free trial now.
So that's part 2. Make sure you get that. Next is find the mentor. This is where most people make a huge mistake. Now, what is a mentor? A mentor is someone who has done what you want to do. who embodies the essence of the greatness of what you want to do. For you, it's Wim Hof, right? For some of you, it's Dan Pena. For some of you, it's Gabor Mate. Find that mentor. But that mentor actually doesn't even have to be alive. Does anybody here train martial arts? I train a little Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a little Muay Thai here. Well, if you talk to fighters, especially in their 40s, they all had one person that was their mentor when it comes to fighting. Does anybody know who that person was? Who? Bruce Lee, right? How can Bruce Lee be their mentor? He's dead, right? How? But he is. Bruce Lee and Enter the Dragon. Are you kidding me? You know, Bruce Lee's up there, you know. He is like, wow, he is the embodiment of what I want to be with martial arts, right? He inspired so many men. He was this really skinny Chinese guy, and he inspired millions and millions of people. That can be your mentor. You could have a virtual mentor, like someone like Joe Rogan or Dan Pena or London Real, or you could have an actual physical mentor, someone that can really be there, lay hands on you, talk to you, etc. That's what I do inside my academy. But you must find a mentor. For any of you that did something that you loved doing when you were a kid that you were happy with, I guarantee you had a mentor. It would have been a parent, a friend, a teacher, a coach. You had that mentor there. This is crucial. You must have that human contact or you won't get to the next level. So those are the first three parts. You're getting momentum now. Now it comes to this. Pay price to action. Who's ever heard of this concept? It's a very weird one, pay price to action. Okay. Pay price to action. This is another thing I learned from my mentor, Dan Pena. He says this all the time. What is pay price to action? It means that in order to transform, you need to sacrifice something that you value right now. You need to sacrifice it. Otherwise, when it gets tough, you're never going to go the distance. Now, the most obvious part of pay price to action is when it's money, right? Say you book a personal training appointment for 50 pounds. If you don't show up, you lose your money. If you show up, you have to work out. That's a great example of a pay price to action. Say you want to transform over 8 weeks for a course. You have to pay some money up front. If you don't do it, you're going to lose that money. But there's other pay prices to action. Anybody here married? Is anyone here married here? No one wants to raise their hands today. Yeah? Well, you had a pay price to action as well. Guess what? You can't be single anymore. You can't swipe left and swipe right, right? You have to sacrifice that to go all in, right? It's a friction that keeps you on the path. This is so crucial. And I would argue this is why a lot of you have failed in the past to do this, pay price to action. When I go into that ayahuasca ceremony, there's a massive pay price to action because I'm going to go into some deep, dark, painful, emotive states. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm paying this price to action right now. But I'm willing to do it because I can potentially get all of these ideas and transformation. This is really important. Now, when I was a banker, this is about 12 years ago, I wanted to meditate. And back then, there was no Headspace and there wasn't much on YouTube. And so all I could find was a course in transcendental meditations. Anybody here do transcendental meditation? Okay. And they wanted $2,000 to teach me how to meditate. Straight up. It's true story. And I was like, okay, all right, here. I gave them the money. And I went to the first class and they're playing me videotapes of this guy called the Maharisha who's dead. And he's saying all these weird things. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, you need to come to a ceremony and bring a piece of fruit and a handkerchief. And I was like, okay. And then they kept going and said, yeah, we're going to give you a mantra. It's based on the year you were born. And I was like, really? But I didn't want to walk away from the 2000. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to show up. And I went to every single one of those classes. I went to the ceremonies. I repeated the mantra. I did everything they said. And guess what I did when I woke up this morning? I meditated. Because I had that pay price to action, I didn't walk away from it. And so this is so crucial. You have to find something. I call it skin in the game. You have to put something up because it's going to help you transform. And a lot of you aren't doing this. I used to teach all my accelerator courses for free in my academy. Do you know how many people graduated? 0. Because it was free. So when things got hard in the 4th and 5th week and I'm asking them to do things that are uncomfortable, I'm like, hey, guess what? You're going to be doing your own webinar soon. You're going to be selling your digital product. Where in my 10 vlogs, they're like, they disappear. But when they've paid me a couple grand, they show up and they do the work. And at the end, they're like, Brian, I just made 20,000. I'm an amazing person. How did you do that? I was like, pay price to action, buddy. So that's it. If you don't have this in your life, make it happen. You've got to pull out that checkbook and make it happen, or pull out a commitment and make it happen. Every Sunday, I teach my son Caden how to swim. It's 2 hours. It's not always fun. All right. But that's 2 hours out of my day I sacrifice. That's my pay price to action to get him across the goal line. This is an important step. So make sure you engineer it into your transformation system. Number 5, create your game plan. So many of us know what we want to do, but we actually have no plan to get there. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You can't just hope it's going to happen. Has anyone here seen the movie The Secret? Yes? Okay, we're really dreaming of it. I had Joe Vitale, who was in that movie, and he said, Brian, people don't understand the secret. You have to take action. And so you must have a game plan. It's like all of a sudden you're like, oh man, I can't look bad. Find a way to be held accountable. In my classes, I split my entire class up into groups of 25 people, and they're from all these places around the world, and they each compete for prizes every week for an Olympic Games, and they all want to win. And so I got someone from New Zealand messaging someone in Hawaii saying, hey, get your work done because I want to win the prize. They're like, oh, who are you again? And they actually are held accountable by people they've never met before. And when they come to graduation, they feel like they're family. So it doesn't have to be a mentor or a teacher or a parent. It can just be people, but find a way of being held accountable. That's how we accomplish it. Step number 8, fight resistance. Who knows what I'm talking about when it comes to resistance? Yeah? Okay. So resistance is an interesting concept. I talked about it in my TED Talk. There's an author named Stephen Pressfield. He's got a book called The War of Art. Has anyone ever read that book? It's a really good book. And he said resistance is this. It's anything that stops you from accomplishing your goal. And guess what? Resistance is directly proportional to the size of the goal you're trying to accomplish, right? You want to build a business? You want to race an Ironman? You want to start a family? Guess what? Massive amounts of resistance. And where does it come from? Everywhere. Technology resistance. Your friends and family and wife and husband, they don't support you. You're not spending money online again. You don't think you can be a speaker. You don't think you can start a business. It comes from Brexit, right? Donald Trump, whatever. It's everywhere, right? We all find sources of resistance, but the important point about resistance is we don't get emotional about it. That's the most important part. We expect it. Oh, we expect. That's what Brian was talking about. That's the resistance. It's not, my wife never supports me, or I hurt my knee. You know, when I went out for my Ironman races, guaranteed at 12 kilometers when I used to train, my knee would start hurting at 12 kilometers. Always. And then at 15 kilometers, did I eat enough? Maybe I should stop. And I was like, oh, that's the resistance. It's trying to get me to stop accomplishing this great goal, and it's putting things in my place. And so that comes to my final point about resistance. What's the biggest source of resistance? Anyone know? Self. Yeah. You are the biggest source of your resistance. The mind is an easy thing to fool, and you are the easiest person to fool in the world. You can fool yourself. You can convince yourself that your knee hurts, right? That this is not the right time. I just got married. I just got divorced. I just got hired. I just got fired. It's Trump. It's Brexit. There's always a reason, but it's all down to your own resistance. And that's why you've got to go through this system and have the mentor, have the pay price to action, have the game plan, and understand you're going to have your own personal resistance to overcome. So don't listen to yourself. Again, it's the battle with our brains every single day. And that's why I do all of my personal practices, the meditation, the training every day, the affirmations, all of that, because it gets me in a state where I'm in control and my monkey brain isn't running the show. Because if it was up to him, I would be watching Netflix at home right now, watching The Crown, if you need to know, eat some salted caramel granola and playing with my kids, right? But I know that if I want to transform, I got to get up here on this stage and talk to all of you people. So I'm fighting my inner battle the whole time, but it's just resistance. And so today, a few things happened on the way here and problems, and I was like, oh, that's resistance. Guess what happens when I have an important guest on my show? What happens? The live video fails, right? They're an hour late. They're in a bad mood, right? What do? Do I get mad at him? Oh, Cardone's in a bad mood today. No, it's just resistance. Yeah, it's resistance. Cool, that means I'm doing something important, and that's what it is. And the other thing about resistance is this. It shows you how bad you want it. How bad do you want this thing, right? It keeps the suckers out, is what resistance does, right? If it was easy to build a business or get a six-pack or transform, everybody would be doing it because they can't handle this. And I would argue this is why a lot of your loops have failed in the past. And I fail all the time on my loops. But a lot of times we come to this and we get emotional about it. Oh, my family doesn't support me. Oh, the technology doesn't work. No, it's just resistance. Move through it, all right? That's really important. And the final, most important step is that we have to accomplish your goal. And this might seem obvious, but it's not obvious to me. I don't want you to try. I don't want you to get close enough. You've got to finish that goal. And when I went to do my Ironman race, I had hung out with a guy named Ross Edgley. Does anybody know Ross? He just swam around the entire island of Great Britain. Yeah, Ross Edgley. Give it up for Ross. Come on. Amazing, right? And Ross was in there, and I was training for my Ironman. And he was like, Brian, you got the Ironman coming up? I was like, yeah, I do, Ross. And he said, look, I trained with the Royal Marines. And he said, you know what they taught me? I was like, what did they teach you? He said, they said this. When you go to accomplish something, tell yourself that you're going to finish, regardless. It doesn't matter how much time it's going to take, but you're going to finish. And once your brain knows that, it won't try to bargain with you. And so that's what I did on May 20th in Chattanooga. I had 70.3 miles to go. I was at the start line, and I said to myself, I'm finishing this no matter what. what? Even if it takes me 6 months and I'm going to be dragging my bloody stumps across the thing, I'm going to finish it. I'll stay here. I'll broadcast from Tennessee, but I'm going to finish it. And I agreed with myself. So then it was just a matter of time. That's all it was. So time was the only variable. So it could have been 6 months, 6 weeks, or 6 days. I did it in under 6 hours. I'm not bragging. 5 hours, 51 minutes, and 55 seconds. But it was, thank you very much. But it was just a matter of then just doing it. And so again, keep that into your mind. Just say, I'm going to accomplish this regardless. Because if we don't get to number 9, all the other stuff is just a bunch of nonsense and BS. It doesn't help us at all. You have to be focusing on accomplishing that goal. And so those are the 9 steps of this system. And right now, I am running simultaneously about 14 of these loops as we speak. One of them is teaching my son, Caden, who's 2 years old, how to swim. It's very difficult, right, honey? It's very difficult, right? 2 hours every Sunday, I take him there. The other one I'm doing right now is I'm trying to become the best breakdancer that ever lived. Yeah? I kid you not, follow my Instagram, The Real Brian Rose. I did 11 windmills on Thursday. It's very impressive. So I'm trying to do that. The third thing I'm trying to do is get London Real to $100 million in revenue. The fourth thing I'm trying to do is make Mariana the happiest woman in the world. Right? It's my hardest thing to do. Some of these will take days and weeks. Some of these will take 10 years. Some of these will take 20 years. But I'm constantly running these loops. I ran one the other day. I did a 36-hour water fast. Has anyone ever done a water fast? It's where you don't eat food for like 2 nights go by. And what happened? I had Timothy Sheep on my show who had just done a 30-day fast. I got idea inception. Bam. Then I visualized my future. What if I did a 36-day water fast, right? Then I got Tim as my mentor. I told my social media I'm not going to eat for 36 hours. I had the pay price to action. I had the accountability. And boom, 36 hours, I ran my transformation loop. I did my first water fast. It was very hard. But now I know I can do it, right? You can be running these loops all the time in anything you want to do. You can constantly be running them. And once you run one loop, it becomes easy. And you start to see it in so many things. And so my question to you is, what will be your first loop? Because I've been running these loops my whole life. Whether it was an engineer or a banker or a broadcaster or an Ironman or a dad, I've been running these loops. And each one that you run, it gets easier and easier. You get momentum. And I remember after I graduated from MIT, I was in a bad situation as a banker. I had to do a difficult thing, and I thought, wait a second, I competed with some of the best. I can do this. I know I can do this. And so once you run these loops, they just keep going and going and going. And I think it was the great samurai swordsman Miyato Musashi that said, once you see the way broadly, you see it in all things. And that's what I think he was talking about, this kind of a transformation system, where once you know you can do it in your personal life or your physical life or your business life, you can repeat it in all sorts of challenges that come up to you. And that's what I want you to be doing. Try to get these loops. So I'm challenging all of you to start some loop today. And you come up to me later, take a picture if you want, but tell me that loop that you want to do. And it could be something short and simple, or it could be about creating a mass-scale transformation of humanity into a fully empowered, conscious, and cooperative species. That goal is going to take me probably 100 years. It's going to take me until after I die. And so I told Mariana the other day at dinner, I think I freaked her out. I was like, baby, when I'm gone, you got to keep this going. So that's a loop that's going to take longer than my lifetime. But that's not the point. The point is that we're going to get there. Imagine if everyone in this city transformed themselves. Like, seriously, imagine what it would be like. The GDP would go up like 200%. We would feel the amazing energy. Everyone would be the best version of themselves that you would have in contact. Imagine that energy that we could have. And yet we're all walking around with this gun just waiting to pull the trigger. What are you waiting for? I think it's time to stop and stop leading these lives of fear and mediocrity and really pull the trigger. And so I believe today is the day to transform yourself. So whatever you do, find some way to pull the trigger and transform yourself. And again, I believe it's our duty here as humans to become best versions of ourselves. And what did Gandhi said? He said, be the change that you want to see. Be the change. So transform yourself. Watch your friends and your family and your kids look at you and say, wow, look at mommy, look at daddy. They're a new version of themselves. Your colleagues will say, wow, you really stepped your game up. What's going on? I see all these things you're doing. How can I do it? How can I transform? And that's really my message here today. I want everyone to really think about what could be that entire transformation process. And so look, I'll be here if anybody wants to take pictures and answer questions. I've got my entire team here as well. You see London Real shirts walking around. And again, we have an entire academy where we've graduated over 3,000 students. We teach people how to start business businesses from their passion, how to start their own podcast, how to publicly speak, and how to accelerate their lifestyles through meditation, affirmation, diet, movement, relationships, and all of that stuff. And if you're interested, speak to one of those people. We've got great programs. We've got some discounts for people that want to do that today. But more importantly, I just want you to pull the trigger on something today. Really get out there and transform yourself. And so I just want to say finally, big thanks to the Best You EXPO. Big thanks to everyone here. And thank you for your time.
For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.